If you've been listening to the Eat More Carbs podcast, you know that Reilly and I are both in our running era. To make sure that we're properly fueled for training, we're using both carbohydrates and 2Before.
2Before is an all-natural pre-workout designed to enhance athletic performance through the benefits of New Zealand blackcurrant berries. Studies have shown these berries to increase vasodilation and prime the body to kickstart muscle recovery. These antioxidant-rich berries have a sweet and tangy flavor and will level up your performance and recovery. Use code Reilly for 20% off 20 packs and multi-serve packs online at 2before.com.
This is the Eat More Carbs podcast. Hello and welcome back. This is the Eat More Carbs podcast. It's Jenna here with Reilly. We are two dietitians that chat every Thursday about sports nutrition for the girlies. Today we're going to be doing our high and low, so just sharing a little bit about our week, the good, and maybe the parts we wish had gone a little bit differently. We're going to be talking about how to get your period back when you cannot stop training. And then lastly, we'll give a training update. If you didn't know, Reilly and I are both in our running era. So Reilly just ran a half marathon and I am going to be running a full marathon upcoming here really soon. And so we're just going to share a little bit about what we're doing for training. So Reilly, first off, kick us off. High and low, what's going on with you this week?
Welcome back. We're so excited to chat with you this week. My high for this week is I'm still running on like cloud 9 because I got into the New York Marathon. I'm so excited. I cannot believe it. I got in through the lottery, which I didn't believe it was happening. I think maybe I got in, fingers crossed, because it was my birthday. So very, very excited. I know where I will be this year, November 2nd, 2025.
I'm so excited for you. I know we had a full freak out when you found out that you got in, but I'm still so excited for you.
Thank you. I still don't know if I believe it. I can't wrap my head around it. Unfortunately for Robbie, this is probably my low for the week, is that I feel bad for him because running the New York Marathon has become my entire personality, and it will be my entire personality for the next 8 months. So my low is by proxy through him.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm super excited to follow your New York Marathon journey. I know you're going to be sharing a lot about it on social media, and so everybody can follow along with your training updates and just how you're going to prepare for that. But just overall, what an exciting race to have as your first marathon. I know that you've been trying to run a marathon for a couple years now, and some life events, we'll say, kind of prevented that from happening, but so excited for this first marathon of yours to be New York.
I still can't believe it. I keep joking with everybody that Charlie is not getting another sibling until at least November 3rd. Like, nobody get your hopes up. Nothing's happening. Sorry, we're running the marathon this year.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Thanks. How's your week going?
My week is really good. My high and low is kind of the same story. My high is that I actually went on a girls trip, which I haven't done in such a long time. And I got to see my sister and two of our friends that we grew up with. I call them my sisters too. And we just spent like 3 days together out in California. My low is that on the way back, my flight got canceled and I ended up spending like 6 hours in LAX. Thankfully, I did have lounge access, so I was able to get some food, but fueling in an airport is just not my favorite baseline, but it's all okay because I got home regardless and it was still within kind of the same day. I think I got home a little bit after midnight, but it wasn't something crazy where I had to like spend the night in the airport or anything like that. So that's my low. It's just, traveling sometimes is just unpredictable.
I feel like it's been even more unpredictable lately too.
Yes. It really has. I'm thankful that I got home. I'm really thankful that I got to see my good friends and my sister, and it'll probably be a minute before I get on another plane. So I just won't think about that experience that I had this past time.
What did you guys do in California?
We spent a lot of time just hanging out and relaxing, sitting by the pool. We had great weather over the weekend, so it was really nice. We didn't do anything or like plan anything crazy. Like we didn't go do like the typical like California tourist things. We just spent time together and just relaxed, which was great.
Oh, I love that.
Today, we're talking about how to get your period back when you can't stop training. We have a lot of athletes that come through RBSN that want to get their period back, but somehow are unable to stop training, whether that be they are a collegiate athlete and they're in the middle of season, or they are working towards something like a specific goal. Stopping training is not an option in order to manipulate energy availability in order to help them regain a period. So when that happens, Reilly, what is our first step for helping them navigate exercise when they can't stop training to get their period back?
First off, I want to say that this doesn't apply to every single case and every single athlete. At RBSN, we do work with a lot of high-level athletes that can stop training, and also like just recreational athletes that don't want to give up training because they enjoy it. But sometimes you do have to stop training from a medical perspective. If you are somebody who has an eating disorder, or you are somebody that is in a very large deficit, you sometimes do have to stop training. But this doesn't apply to everybody, and this is something that you should work on one-on-one one-on-one with a dietitian and also address with your physician. I want to start off by saying that because this, again, not medical advice. And this situation is handled differently with every single individual. If you are somebody that wants to keep training, that should not hold you back from working on period recovery.
I think our goal for a lot of people is, even the recreational athletes that come through, is that they're able to maintain some type of movement, because that's a really important component of like their life and their like happiness, and what helps with like stress relief and all kind of like other components of like working along period recovery is not giving up everything that you love or like all of these massive changes all at once. But some of the things that like we can focus on when it comes to the type of exercise that we're doing is maybe like some quality versus quantity type of changes. What does that mean for an athlete?
When we look at quality versus quantity with workouts, it's how are we prioritizing the training that you need to advance your performance and continue in your sport. When we look at all of the activity that you're doing throughout the day, sometimes that activity isn't contributing to your performance. So if you are one of these elite level athletes, really analyzing what type of training that you're currently doing is going to help you better your sport. And then maybe what activity are you doing maybe outside of your training that is just contributing to that energy deficit.
In the period recovery guide that RBSN is going to be releasing this month, we talk a lot about how to actually analyze the exercise that you are doing and identify areas that maybe it's not quality workout. So taking a look at everything that you are doing and then being able to say, okay, that is something that does actually enhance performance, and that is something that maybe I could do without.
Exactly. So a really easy example is if you're somebody who's trying to get in like 10,000 steps outside of your training. Are the 10,000 steps contributing to your performance, right? You already are very active because of the training that you're doing. That 10,000 steps might not be the right approach for you, and it's not really contributing to your health, because what is healthy for you right now is overcoming that energy deficit.
I think another big example too is we have a lot of collegiate athletes that tend to exercise in between their classes, whether that be walking or riding a bike, things like that, and even looking at ways we can change that. So is there a bus that can take you from one side of campus to the other? And just making sure that we're utilizing everything available to help you reduce some of that extra exercise that maybe isn't necessary.
Oh, I love that. I think people really underestimate how physically active they are outside of their training, especially college athletes. You can easily be walking like 4 or 5 miles just getting to your classes, going to your dorms, going to the dining hall. That is something that people don't often notice or include in their exercise each day.
And it all counts.
It all counts. That is something that we really, really talk about in our period recovery program and then also in the period recovery guide. So we talked about quality versus quantity with our workouts. What else would you recommend for athletes who can't stop training and are working on HA?
When we look at that, we can make sure that we are actually fueling those workouts, and that incorporates both pre and post workout fueling. So those times that you do have to be at practice or you are choosing to remain active during your recovery, making sure that is fueled properly. So having a snack beforehand or having a meal and a snack beforehand, making sure that you do have energy available to support that training, and then also having a recovery snack on the other side of training. So not going a long period of time before you do refuel, making sure that your refueling snack does incorporate all of the things that we need to, and it's not leaving out certain components. So making sure that not only like that does exist, but like that's good quality too.
Definitely. I got a question on my Fueling Q&A that I do on Mondays, and it was a question about, do I really need to replenish the calories that I burned during my workout? What would you say to that question? What would you say to that athlete?
Yes. Refueling is such an important component, not only if you are working towards HA recovery, but just as an athlete in general, making sure that you are replenishing all of the energy that you just lost so that way you can recover well, but also making sure that you then have the energy available for the remainder of your day, because no matter what time you are training, your body needs energy afterwards.
Yes. So something that has been really different for me now in my postpartum running era compared to my, I would say, post-college athlete running era is that I'm fueling so much better during my runs and also before and after my runs. So really bookending the carbohydrates before and then carbohydrates and proteins afterwards. And what I've really noticed is that I have so much more energy now during the day, especially on my Saturday or Sunday long runs. Post-college running era Reilly wasn't fueling properly like before and after, and I spent most of the day like after my run like on the couch. Not only was not refueling bad for my performance, but it was also making me like kind of like a slug of a human, right? Like I wasn't enjoying my life. I wasn't spending time with my husband. But now as a mom, I don't have the option to lie on the couch all day. And also I don't want to. So really bookending my training sessions with that pre and post nutrition has helped not just my performance, but my quality of life as well.
This could totally go into what drives me bananas, but I saw a post the other day that was like things you don't realize during marathon training. And it was like your one day that's dedicated to your long run, the rest of the day you don't do anything. And I was like, well, yes, you may be tired after your run. Like, of course, you're going to be tired after you run 16, 18 miles, but you shouldn't feel like the rest of your day is spent on the couch just trying to recover from that. That should be an indication that maybe we weren't even properly fueled at the beginning of that run. And then we definitely didn't refuel on the other side of that run either. So if that is where you find yourself, making sure that you really do fuel pre and post to help with that, because that's not something that you should be experiencing like to the point where it's debilitating or you can't experience the rest of your day.
And that's something that I think is a big misconception with athletes is that we're taught to push through. We're taught that it's going to maybe be a little painful, or we have to have resiliency when it comes to sport, or we're going to be tired, but we don't have to be that tired, right? We don't have to be that miserable. We don't have to have that much pain. There's a normal amount, and then there's an amount that goes too far.
Yes, fatigue is going to be inevitable when you are running 16 miles, but it shouldn't be to the point where you literally can't do anything for the rest of your day.
Exactly. Any other fueling tips for somebody who is trying to get their period back pre and post workout?
I think this kind of ties into the idea that your fueling is going to look very different from potentially your teammates, but remembering that just because you're choosing to have a pre-training snack and a post-training refuel, that might be different from what the teammates around you are choosing to do or what they might need. They might have had their snack before they got to the training facility or something like that. So just remembering that things look really, really different. I think my final tip would be never doing a fasted workout. I think it was really popular to show up under-fueled and having not had any type of pre-training snack because, you know, you might experience some GI upset or you might not like the way that you feel, and totally valid. But that just might mean that we're choosing the wrong things at the wrong time when it comes to that pre-training snack, and making small adjustments can make it more comfortable and still make sure that you are in a fed state versus a fasted state without experiencing some of those other like GI or discomfort feelings that can come along from picking the wrong pre-workout fuel.
Exactly. Especially with runners too. GI issues are common, but they're not normal.
Right. Exactly.
A lot of the times, if you're an athlete that is choosing to do a fasted workout because you're avoiding some of these GI symptoms, it's likely probably making the problem worse. And there's an issue going on that we have to address. We can't just say, man, I can't eat before a workout. There's something going on there, because you should be able to eat before a workout and you should be able to, fuel your body properly.
Couldn't agree with you more. When we look at some of the other things that we can adjust when you can't stop training in order to get your period back, what would you say to an athlete that feels apprehensive about fueling differently than their teammates?
This is a conversation that I have with almost all of our period recovery athletes, because comparison and comments from others can be some of the hardest challenges to navigate in this journey and with period recovery. And I honestly think just fueling your body as an athlete in general, because your fueling is probably going to look a lot different than those around you. It can be really intimidating and overwhelming to look down at your plate of food and then look at others on the table and your plate look completely different than theirs. And this is just a reminder that every single athlete is going to be needing different energy requirements, and also everybody's on their own journey. So you don't know what the other athletes have ate throughout the day. They don't know what you ate throughout the day, and you also don't know what they're going through. So you might know that yourself, you have lost your period, and you might know that others have lost their period, but there's other teammates who might be going through something similar on their own and they just haven't publicly shared.
Comparison can be so tricky when it comes to fueling, especially when you are working on a goal like recovering your period.
Exactly. Jenna, you and I are both training for marathons right now. We're both in our running era, but our fueling looks very, very different, I'm sure, because we're both different, people. And that's totally okay, because everybody's going to be different. And this fueling is so individualized.
Exactly. And just like you and your teammate might be on the same team, you might be in different positions. You might have a different specialty. And Reilly is training for a marathon. I'm training for a marathon, but we're at different points in marathon training. So while surface level level, we both have the same end goal, but our fueling to support that training for the week is going to look different based on the fact that like Reilly's high mileage week is going to look different from my high mileage week. So all of those things combined to make what we're requiring for fuel that week. And the same goes for everybody that's on the same team, regardless of being involved in the same sport.
And even if we were training for the same race, like Jenna, you love gels. I'm not saying you love gels, but you can tolerate gels. And I have PTSD from gels in college. So those are really hard for me to, fuel with. And I have to navigate fueling during my runs a lot differently than you do.
Yep. And what works for my stomach isn't going to be what works for yours. And again, that's okay, but it just means that we have to look at different options because we both understand the importance of making sure that that run is fed, but it's going to be in a different way.
And then this is just a quick reminder that, again, everybody is on their own journey. When people are making negative comments about your plates, this might be kind of harsh, but it shows more about them than it does about you. And this is something to continue to remind yourself about and continue to push through on that journey.
We're proud of everyone working towards period recovery. It can be such a challenging journey, but it is worth it. Any final tips for how to get your period back when you can't stop training?
I think the last thing that I have to say is consistency on this journey is so important. So today we talked about having quality workouts versus just the quantity workouts. We talked about pre and post fueling. And we also talked about continuing to have a positive mindset when plating food and when comparing yourself to others. We have to make sure that these things that we're doing are done on a consistent basis. If you listen to this episode and you're motivated, which hopefully you are, we have to make sure that you're not just making these changes for 2 to 3 days. These changes need to be something that happens consistently. And we also have to figure out how we can make them sustainable practices throughout your lifestyle. So whether you are, getting your period back, have gotten your period back, or you're just an athlete who's trying to maximize your performance, these changes and these implementations have to be consistent.
Consistency really is the key. We talked a lot about running there at the end and how our fueling might look different for our training. We are both training for marathons now. You just finished your half marathon. We'll probably do an entire episode kind of recapping that because it can't just be wrapped up in a single sentence or a single training update. So we will do that in the future. But right now you are now officially training for your first marathon, the New York Marathon. We're going to provide our training update where we just share a little bit about what's going on as far as how we're preparing for our upcoming races. So Reilly, what's going on this week for you?
I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. I keep thinking about it. I've never been so excited to have to run for 3+ hours. Again, I shared at the beginning of the episode that this has become my entire personality. So I'm very excited. I will officially begin my training in July. My goal right now is to find a local half that I can get a time for that I can use for the basis of all of my training. So I have something local that I'm attempting to plan at the end of June. I will hopefully get a nice time for that. And then I will use that time for the basis of all of my training. And I actually have decided that I'm going to use the Runna app. I'm going full in. I'm just doing the thing. Again, it's become my entire personality. So I'm really excited to kind of play around with that over the next couple of months and then dive into a plan come July.
Well, we're excited to follow you along this journey. Super excited that you were selected to run the New York City Marathon. I know that a lot of people were hoping to run that race, and I've seen a lot of statistics on the acceptance rate from that race. So congratulations on being one of the few that gets to run that race. We cannot wait to cheer you on.
Thank you. What about you? What does training look like for you? I know your race is coming up in a month almost.
I know, it's wild. I feel like time is just flying by, but just staying consistent. I think the biggest thing when it comes to marathon training is making sure that you prioritize making sure that you are taking intentional rest days and fueling properly to make sure that we don't have any injuries and we can continue to train so that way race day is successful. So right now, a lot of my longer runs, they're hard, but hard today, easy on race day is kind of what I keep telling myself when I get into that mindset of why am I doing this? Because around now is usually kind of when I start to feel that feeling of this is a lot of running, which it's a good thing. So that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like a broken record where I just keep saying mid distance is during the week, long run is on the weekend, making sure I'm really dialing in my fueling so that way no surprises on race day either.
So exciting. You're running the race with Nolan, your husband, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We do run together, which is great because I don't run with music. So when I need some distraction from what's going on as far as my feet hurting or just feeling tired and things like that, we can kind of chit chat and it helps the time kind of go by a little bit. It's also great because I have a pacer because he definitely slows down to run on my level. So I appreciate that I kind of have that built in without having to check my own watch. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Eat More Carbs podcast. If you have have questions for Reilly and I, please feel free to reach out. You can find us on Instagram. You can find Reilly at easy.sports.nutrition, and you can find me at jenna.fisher.nutrition. Thanks again for listening. Please make sure you rate, subscribe, and review. And as always, remember to eat more carbs.